Mexican drug cartels have a very serious problem: too much cash. I'm not joking. The Sinaloa Cartel makes so much money, they don't even count it anymore. They actually weigh it. $1 million in 20s weighs about 50 pounds. Now imagine making 50 million a month. That's thousands of pounds of paper. You can't deposit it, banks will report you. You can't spend it, no one accepts duffel bags for a mansion. You can't store it. Rats literally eat through the bills. So how do cartels turn mountains of dirty cash into clean wealth? The answer is terrifyingly clever. Let's start with the basics. Why is cash such a nightmare? Here's the math. 1 kilogram of cocaine sells for about $25,000 on the street. Sounds great until you realize that 25,000 in $20 bills weighs around 2.5 pounds, more than the drugs themselves. Now scale that up. The Sinaloa Cartel moves hundreds of tons of cocaine annually. We're talking billions of dollars in physical cash. That's not a fortune, that's a logistics disaster. 2,000 pounds of paper stuffed in duffel bags? You can't exactly roll up to a bank with that. And here's the thing, banks aren't stupid. In the United States, any cash deposit over $10,000 automatically triggers a currency transaction report. The bank has to tell the government. So maybe you think, fine, I'll just deposit 9,000 at a time. Wrong. That's called structuring, and it's a federal crime. Banks are trained to spot it. Deposit 9,000 5 times in a month? Red flag. Different branches? Red flag. Someone notices you paying for everything in crisp hundreds? Red flag. The cash problem got so bad that one cartel reportedly lost 20% of its profits just to rats. Literal rats, eating through stacks of bills stored in warehouses. Money rotting in walls. This is the absurd reality. Drug lords drowning in cash they cannot spend. So they got creative. The term money laundering actually comes from this exact problem. Back in the 1920s, Al Capone bought laundromats, cash businesses. Customers pay in coins and bills. Who's going to prove that today's revenue didn't come from actual customers? You just mix the dirty money with the legitimate earnings, and suddenly it's all clean. The concept hasn't changed in 100 years. Method 1. Smurfing. You recruit dozens, sometimes hundreds of people called Smurfs. Each one deposits small amounts of cash into different bank accounts. Never the same branch twice. The instructions are simple. Here's $3,000. Go to this bank. Deposit it. Come back. Here's another $3,000. Different bank. Repeat. One person depositing $3,000 isn't suspicious, but 50 people doing it every day across a city? That's $150,000 daily, nearly 5 million a month, all in amounts too small to trigger reports. The money sits in dozens of accounts, gets transferred around, and eventually consolidates somewhere clean. Method 2. Cash-intensive businesses. Remember the car wash from Breaking Bad? That wasn't fiction. It was textbook. Certain businesses handle enormous amounts of cash daily. Laundromats, restaurants, nightclubs, parking lots, car washes. The beauty is in the ambiguity. How does the IRS prove that your nightclub didn't really have 500 customers last Saturday? They'd have to count every person walking through the door, every night, forever. So you just inflate the numbers. Real revenue, maybe $20,000 a month. Reported revenue, $200,000. The difference? Drug money, now officially earned through a legitimate business. Shell companies make this even easier. You create a company that exists only on paper. No employees, no real operations. Just a name, a bank account, and an owner hidden behind layers of other shell companies. The shell company invoices your cash business for consulting services. Your cash business pays the invoice. Money transferred, origin obscured. You move money through multiple transactions, multiple accounts, multiple jurisdictions. Each layer adds distance from the original crime. By the time it reaches the final destination, tracing it back becomes nearly impossible. But here's the problem with all these methods. They're slow, they're labor intensive, and they don't scale well. Smurfing works for millions. But billions? You'd need an army of Smurfs. Cash businesses can only wash so much before the numbers look ridiculous. A car wash in Albuquerque reporting 10 million in annual revenue? Someone's going to notice. For the real money, cartels needed something much bigger, something truly global and invisible. Enter real estate. Here's how it works. You find a property worth $2 million. You buy it through a shell company using cash, often in a country with relaxed reporting requirements. Maybe Dubai, maybe Panama, maybe Miami, where nearly half of luxury real estate purchases are made by anonymous shell companies. The property is now yours. On paper, a company from the Cayman Islands owns it. A year later, you sell the property for $2 million. The buyer pays with a wire transfer from a legitimate bank. Clean money lands in your account. The original cash, completely untraceable. Real estate laundering became so popular in certain markets that prices got distorted. Entire neighborhoods in London filled with empty apartments owned by offshore entities. The owners weren't living there, they were cleaning money. But the truly sophisticated operators don't bother with buildings at all. They use international trade. Say you want to move $10 million from Mexico to China. You find a Chinese exporter selling electronics. The real price is $1 million, but on paper, you agree to pay $11 million. The extra $10 million? Your dirty money, now disguised as a legitimate business transaction. The Chinese exporter keeps a fee and sends the rest wherever you want. From the outside, it looks like ordinary commerce. Goods moved, invoices paid, nothing suspicious. This method moves an estimated hundreds of billions annually. Customs officials would need to know the true value of every shipment crossing every border to catch it. That's essentially impossible. And here's where it gets really dark. The cartels aren't doing this alone. In 2012, HSBC paid nearly $2 billion in fines after admitting they'd laundered money for Mexican drug cartels. $2 billion. One of the largest banks in the world. They processed hundreds of millions in suspicious transactions. They ignored red flags. They kept doing it for years. Nobody went to prison. The bank paid a fine equivalent to about 4 weeks of profit and moved on. HSBC wasn't unique. Wachovia, now part of Wells Fargo, processed $378 billion in suspicious transactions for Mexican currency exchanges. Deutsche Bank has faced multiple laundering investigations. These aren't rogue employees. These are systemic failures at institutions that should know better. The professionals who make this possible aren't wearing ski masks. They're wearing suits. Lawyers who set up shell companies, accountants who structure transactions, bankers who look the other way. They take their cut and maintain plausible deniability. The whole system runs on willful ignorance. So how much money are we actually talking about? The United Nations estimates that between $800 billion and $2 trillion gets laundered globally every year. That's roughly 2 to 5% of the entire world economy, flowing through banks, businesses, and real estate markets, hidden in plain sight, and catching it nearly impossible. Law enforcement estimates they intercept less than 1% of laundered funds. The system is simply too big, too complex, too international. Money crosses borders faster than investigators can follow. Jurisdictions don't cooperate. Regulations vary wildly. By the time anyone notices something suspicious, the money has moved through 17 shell companies across 9 countries. The people who get caught are usually small players, the Smurfs, the guy running the suspicious car wash. The big fish, the ones moving billions through trade invoices and luxury real estate, rarely face consequences. The penalties, when they come, are just a cost of doing business. This is the uncomfortable truth about money laundering. It isn't some shadowy underground operation. It's woven into the legitimate financial system. The same banks that hold your savings account have processed drug money. The same lawyers who handle corporate mergers have created shell companies for cartels. The same real estate markets where people buy homes have been inflated by dirty cash. The next time you walk past a restaurant that's always empty but never closes, or see another luxury condo tower going up in a city where nobody can afford rent, you might wonder, where's that money actually coming from? Because the cartels figured out something important a long time ago. The best place to hide dirty money isn't in the shadows. It's right in the middle of the legitimate economy, where nobody thinks to look.